live now. Okay, we're live. Welcome to another town hall. Let me just make sure I'm not going to get this playing in the background. Nope, we're good. Okay, so as I said, welcome. We've got a special presentation today from Nate Monroe, which we'll get to shortly, but just going to do a couple of quick administrative things first. Let me share my screen here. We've got our YouTube chat there in the lower right corner. We'll try to keep an eye on that. If we got anyone watching on the live stream, feel free to say hello. All right, Ben's going to be helping us with notes. I don't see anyone new to introduce today. Everyone here is an old timer. Action items. I think these are things that we don't need to take the time to cover today. We got a couple of in progress things. We'll follow up on those next time. Nothing time sensitive right now. The only upcoming special presentation I have is today's from Nate Monroe. So if anybody else, we did have a great presentation from Jack Buchanan recently, and he's doing a follow-up deep dive on that today, which we'll be mentioning again momentarily when we look at upcoming events. But other than that, I have no other presentations on the schedule. So it'd be really nice to highlight some of the other great projects we have going on. That's an open invitation to anyone in the community. Here's our usual metrics that we look at, and I don't think there's anything really to call attention to. I'll just remind everyone that we do have a very healthy balance in the e-NABLE fund, so it's a great time to be putting forth projects that would be of value to the community, because we want to keep this funding coming. We want to go back to these donors, and we need to be able to say, look at all the wonderful things we did with your last round of funding. Would you please support us again? And we haven't really done a good job of making use of the funding we've received this year. So we actually need to spend some of this money. So we need some good projects. I actually will be addressing something later, time permitting, where we will have to allocate a little bit of money for some of our infrastructure, but that's not going to affect most of that. We always like to look at kind of the most active posts of the week on the hub, and there were really just two that I wanted to call attention to this week. One is from Jack Buchanan, who asked if it was possible to remove that little widget that we have in the hub that says "Need help." It's the one that you click on to get to the live chat, and because he found that kind of covers up important elements when you're on a mobile device, and so we did go ahead and remove that. That's been done. We just decided that there's other ways of accessing that support channel. You can always email us, and we do have the live chat widget on the other e-NABLE site at enablingthefuture.org. So we just went ahead and removed it from the hub. So that's been done. And then Daniel Robinson posted some interesting photos. He's been doing some experimenting with the thermoformed wrist braces that have been discussed in the chapter leaders meeting. There's been some discussion about how our community might be able to help with the situation in Ukraine and the refugees there. And this was one of the possibilities that we thought might be a good fit for our capabilities. It's got some very cool photos here showing how they're testing out that process, and it looks really, really good. They're wrapping to prevent, any burns, it looks like. Yeah, so I didn't really, it looks like just one comment from Ben congratulating him and giving him a video link, but just wanted to share that.
Cool.
Excellent work. All right, so as far as meetings coming up, we've got today's presentation from Nate coming up momentarily, and then after this meeting, about an hour after this meeting wraps up, at 1 p.m. Eastern, we've got the focus follow-up, which is that deep dive I mentioned with Jack Buchanan going into the Kuawu 3.0, which if you didn't see his last presentation, oh my God, so impressive. Really don't want to miss this. It is such an impressive design with so many innovations. I mean, not just one, but several really very cool and valuable innovations, I think. So be sure to check that out. There were a number of questions that came up in his, sort of short presentation that he gave recently, and we're hoping to be able to get deeper insights into some of those things in today's follow-up. As far as other upcoming meetings, let me pull up the month's summary here. Ben, anything you want to go through here on upcoming meetings?
Maybe just to circle back around, we did have the chapter leaders meeting this past Monday, which was a great turnout. We had a lot of new folks. There was a team member from e-NABLE Greece, there was a volunteer who's from Ukraine. Just a really interesting conversation and a lot of leads from how we can move forward with supporting Ukraine. Also, the Friday before was a presentation by Humanos 3D in Colombia, and they really are doing wonderful work down there. So if you check the calendar, you can go back and you can see these presentations, and in the comments for the events, you'll see the recordings. Coming up, we've got, as you mentioned before, today is Jack Buchanan's presentation, and then the following week, John's going to be walking us through basically orientation materials, looking at the launch pad, the new member space, and helping to make the most of all the resources that some of our Brandeis interns help put together, namely Kevin and Allie.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. All right. Don't have any kind of one-time events coming up, so I'm going to hand it over to Nate to do his presentation, and then time permitting, I have just 3 topics that I'm hoping that we can save time for. So if we can try to save 10 to 15 minutes towards the end, Nate, that would be helpful, but we're flexible on that. With that, I'm going to
You got it, Jeremy. I'm going to try and clock in right at about 30 minutes.
Great.
Okay.
Over to you, Nate.
Okay. Awesome. Well, okay. My name is Nate Monroe. For those that don't know me within the community, I used to be really heavily involved, but the last year or so, I've been taking a pretty deep hiatus to go take care of the parenting laws and Medicare issues that were in Colorado that made me lose my arm in the first place. So it's all kind of interconnected, but it was something I had to do for my own personal needs. Anyways, development this last year has not been as intense as it had been in the years before, especially since we didn't have the funding that we had before. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just something I had to do, is I had to shift my attention back to the things that were needed to be done here with the legal situation in Colorado. So the development definitely hasn't been as impressive as it has in the past, but the things that we have done have been very impactful, and we've delivered a few devices despite being really distracted to some degree. At the beginning of last year, the NIOP design team actually had become a very significant thing, or at the beginning, I guess, at the beginning of 2021, that's how we'll say this. We had everything coming together. The NIOP design team had gotten basically too big for its own good. At that same moment, I had a few key players that shuffled around, which always happens when you've got quality people helping out. And so that's inevitable with people who are of quality, that they're going to be promoted to their jobs. So like one of my main designers got promoted in his job, and it started a big downturn. And actually the NIOP design team kind of crumbled in some degree, but me and some core members still kept doing the design work as we could, as I was able to, between my lulls with the legal stuff. So we're going to cover basically the 2022 NIOP catalog. And the one member that I had consistently through all of this was Lorenzo, my assembly guy. So we were still able to prototype some new designs and get some new stuff out there. It actually was, hearing my description of the events up to this point, it sounds pretty bleak, but actually we've made some very significant goals, and we've extended some of the music adapters as well. We now have a transhumeral version of the Salvation. So we've got a Salvation adapter now. If you're near elbow, or if you're transradial, anywhere along here, we can attach the Salvation 2. Salvation 1 works for near elbow conditions. And then the new Salvation 3 is a transhumeral version that fits right up in here. Oh, I mailed it. Sorry, I don't have that example on me.
I was going to say, Nate, some of us, including me, are not familiar with the Salvation. Do you have if not one, do you have a photo at least or something?
Okay, so this is the Salvation 1.
Okay.
And you can see it comes with a rubber tourniquet basically to hold it. And this is used for extra secure, to anchor it more securely on the end of a very small appendage, like a near elbow condition.
Okay.
So it's more printed in shape. That's the key element with that one.
But what is it for? Is that to hold a drumstick or?
Oh, that is a guitar pick right there on the end.
Okay.
It's a thumb style guitar pick.
Got
And
it.
so that's what I use to play my guitar videos, is I use the Salvation one. Now, other people had written in and said, well, I would like one that works further down on my arm, because obviously they were blessed with a little more forearm than I had. So then we came up with the Salvation 2 style, which is a thermoformable version. And you just strap it on with Velcro straps. So this is a little easier to don and doff, to take on and off. But it does, I find the rubber tourniquet, it's actually a latex tourniquet, or non-latex tourniquet, skin safe. So it sticks and holds better for my situation, but this is good for people that need transradial and have a little more forearm to work with. It actually gives you more range with your strumming arm. And then the transhumeral version is very similar to this, but with the pick adapter extended off the front and bent at a 90-degree angle to kind of emulate an elbow. We're going to make a more deluxe version of this that's actually the helix cuff with an adapted forearm in the bottom attached to a brace, so it will activate and swing down as you swing your arm out. The trick is, right now, the action we've got with the bracing system needs you to pull the arm forward to get it to swing down. So I've got to reverse the way the cable tension works to be able to operate it correctly to work with a strumming action. But all of the pieces are there. We just got to redirect it slightly. So those are the musical adapters that we've made so far. There are a couple devices that haven't shown up in the catalog yet. I've got a doorknob adapter that's coming, where we've got, I went around my house. There were 7 different types of doorknobs in my house. So I mapped out all of them, and I'm going to try and make them customizable with OpenSCAD, so you can customize them to your door. And that way you can change all of the doors in your house to a lever style doorknob that you can operate with a stump or with a device. And it changes the point of having to buy new doorknobs, so you don't have to change any of the key sets or the locks or any of the other things, especially if you're renting. It doesn't, many times landlords aren't hip to changing all the doorknobs in the unit, and you can do it all with a 3D printer on site. So those aren't in the catalog yet, but that's coming. And without further ado, I'll get to the good stuff, I guess. Here, I'm going to share my screen.
While you're pulling that up, I want to ask a question, Nate. Just based on what you've shared so far, it strikes me that it sounds like you're sort of focusing more on devices oriented towards sort of specialized functions, a lot of, music, helping to play musical instruments, helping to open doorknobs. Is that your focus? Are you kind of moving away from generalized devices and focusing more on task specific devices, or is that just part of the catalog?
My problem, Jeremy, is I buried the lead. We started talking about this little thing up here in the top corner instead of the main event going on right here. So one of perhaps maybe the largest advancement we've made with the, well, there's 2 different advancements that we made for the general arm systems, the general NIOP arm platform. The first would be the Arks Hand, which is functionally the most adaptable and most functional hand I'd found within the e-NABLE library so far. Now, to be fair, I have not reviewed the K1 hand, which I know Eric is really into, and Jack has come up with the Kwawu 3.0 now, yes, which I need to take a look at. But the Arks Hand does have significant technological advances that made it a formidable force. It's got a cool look to it right now that's definitely unapologetically prosthetic, which is one thing that I know certain users don't like, but I've found a whole group of users that really do like that. I get a lot of requests for cool robot arms, and this falls right into that category. And so Jason Lee is the inventor of this hand, and he's a solid designer by all accounts. I have gone through and I've adapted lots of parts from the original Arks Hand for the NIOP system. One adaptation I've made is I put a metal recoil spring in it, which we'll get into. I got a good picture of that later. But in general, it works, there's no TPU in it at all. It prints very cleanly without supports on almost all the parts. The thumb is positionable in 3 positions. The wrist rotates in 12 positions with the new Arks wrist. It features Oh my gosh, it says participants can now see your screen. I hope you guys were able to see this before.
No, we've been seeing it.
Okay, excellent. It's got silicone fingertips and a silicone grip pad on the palm. So it's got excellent traction and friction in the grip to be able to really hold on to stuff. It's got really good contact with the pinch grip. It normally, when you just pull it shut, it will go into this pinch grip. If you keep pushing past that point, it will then go into I guess the fingers slip underneath and it goes into a full grip. So you get both grips by just activating it. It's really neat. It also has increased leverage at the end of the modified Kwawu forearm there. At the elbow joint, I increased the cam, so it increases the grip pull with each pull on it. And now you don't need a grip lock switch, because when you swing the arm up into the closed position like it is now, the tension bending over the cam actually is so slight as far as how much effort it takes from the user to hold it. You can hold very tightly onto something with minimal effort, and it doesn't cause the spasms in the residual limb like we were having before, when you have to really muscle through it when you're holding it. And so that was the point of the grip lock switch. And this eliminated a huge bunch of the assembly and the complexity of the arm design itself. The arm itself is now just two pieces plus the cuff, and whatever cool things you want to put on there to make it look pretty, right? But but that's the cosmetic part. I'm burying the headline again on purpose. We're going to get to that in just a second.
If you'll excuse one more interruption, sure. I just want to say that what you just described about the change you made with the cam and allowing for gripping without the locking mechanism and everything, that strikes me as like, this is one of those very unique advantages of having somebody like yourself, who's a designer who himself has a limb difference. I don't know that somebody else without a limb difference could have, identified even the need, much less come up with a solution. I think that's really cool to have somebody like you involved on the design side.
It takes all, thank you, Jeremy. It takes all kinds though, because I'm able to facilitate this part. Obviously, Jack on his own has made some massive advantages too. So I'm looking forward to comparing notes with everybody in the community. The K1 hand probably has some awesome stuff to add as well. So all this being said, the wrist design here should work now with the new Kwawus, and the wrist here would be replaced in, how do I say this? The bottom part for the Kwawu, which was just the wrist before, is that's the replacement part. It's a modified version of that. There we go. I got it out. So, but this particular wrist has a cavity inside the wrist for the recoil spring to fit down in, so you can get some additional tensioning out of the spring, because there wasn't enough just within the palm cavity to be able to get the spring to tension properly to get enough response to make the hand pop open smoothly. So, there's one other big feature about the Arks Hand. I suppose I can get into it. The new catalog here, I'll put a link up in the hub so everybody can get access to this right after the presentation. I'll put a link in the presentation as well. We have most of the same categories as we had before, but we've cleaned up the catalog and got all the pictures looking good. So now we're getting a little more professional. So the first thing, we got FAQs pages now. So how do I, and then you just come up here and you can pick on any one of these pieces of text or the icon, and it'll just take you to tell you how to do things. With the new silicone parts, we've made a tip sheet, a DIY sheet for you, so you can learn how to make silicone parts. I'll give you guys all a little spoiler alert. All you do is print out the molds. That goes pretty easy. But the next part is diluted dish soap. You take dish soap, and it's about a 50-50 mix with that and water, and then you use that as the release agent in the molds, and silicone doesn't stick to that. I found even mold release doesn't work very well with this, but dish soap is beautiful and gives you really awesome results. Number two solution for that one would be put a piece of cellophane in there, plastic wrap. And that seems to work pretty good, but you can sometimes get a couple wrinkles in the finished silicone, but it still does a nice job and they come out looking really finished. Yeah, you can,
Can I ask just a naming question. Clarify for us, what is the difference between NIOP, which I know stands for no insurance? Is it no insurance optimized prosthetics? Is that right?
We're to orthotics and prosthetics, but
Orthotics,
it started as optimized prosthetics.
There you go. And then, so what is the difference between NIOP and Tree of Strength? How do they relate to one another?
Oh, okay. NIOP is kind of like e-NABLE. It's a no-no. It's a non-organization of it's not a non-organization of non-organizations. It's just a non-organization. I suppose it's just a no. So though the Tree of Strength is an official LLC registered with the state of Colorado. So that's the business name we're doing things under. Tree of Strength will be the organization we're using to generate FDA registration so we can become an official FDA registered prosthetic manufacturer to make these prosthetics for Children's Hospital and hopefully some of the other hospitals here locally. And then hopefully that would be the model that could then be reproduced and replicated throughout the rest of the community. We're working with a consultant who she's got a lot of experience with the FDA. She's actually the one who got the EpiPen registered with the FDA. So she's got a lot of different experience with medical class devices of all different levels. And she's kind of like the hot shot to call in for this. I was lucky enough, actually, the manager that left that caused the design team snafu was actually the guy that ended up working with her that brought her in. So no one can complain about anything. It's just a complicated world. So, but she is an invaluable part of this whole plan to move forward with the FDA. And so that is the answer about Tree of Strength. And there's merch for all these different people. So our organizations or whatever the no-no is, brands. That's
so so essentially Tree of Strength is the organization and NIOP is kind of the product line.
Yes. And I'm working on trademarking it right now because it forever was just me working out of a hospital bed, but now it's becoming kind of more official. And so I need to work on doing that because it's a brand that has identification and stuff to it. So it's worth protecting. Are there any other questions here about the FAQ page or things that you would like to see in the future here that I didn't quite address? Obviously, things might come up when you're working on a project, but this is a great place to ask folks for feedback.
I'd say let's not get sidetracked, Nate. This looks great.
Perfect.
Let's move on.
If there's something obvious like, hey, how do you make a device or something, that would have been a good one. But like, we covered some of those bases.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We're into the Arks Hand. So we've covered most of this already. Down here at the bottom, you can see how the pinch grip works. You can see the 3 positions for the thumb. This is actually a 0, then a 40-degree deflection, then an 80-degree deflection. These two don't look that much different, but it's just because the one's at like a 45-degree angle almost. Here you can see the silicone fingertips, and unfortunately, I don't have sticky keys on right now because I didn't want to beep you guys during the meeting, but we can roll in there later. Basically what it is this is the thumb right here. And so all of them basically work on the same principle. It's got a cavity that you'll overfill with silicone, jam it down in, put on or paint the inside of the mold with the diluted dish soap. Then you jam the silicone in there, come back 2 days later, and you got one of these. So, and that do-it-yourself sheet has all the tips in there for you. The one thing I did not cover in the Arks Hand that actually is covered up in this picture is internally in the Arks Hand, the Whipple tree runs through a pulley system. So the driveline comes in through the wrist, goes up in through the hand, goes up through the Whipple tree, back down through a pulley, and then secures on the Whipple tree. So what it does is when you pull on it, it leverages and pulls the Whipple tree down with the increased cam on the end of the elbow. So there's 2 things there working the leverage to your advantage. So it works really well even with shorter residual limbs. It's a good design.
And I see in your notes there that you say that it can hold up to 16 pounds. So you actually tested that out?
Jason Lee did with the original design.
Got it. Okay.
It may hold more though now because I believe that number was derived without the silicone fingertips, and the fingertips add a huge amount of leverage. So I believe we've covered everything. It now has the upgraded metal spring in it, and They all print really nicely without supports in general, and it prints really fast as well. Oh, there are finger covers on the back of these fingers right now. On this particular version, we made them the same color as the main finger itself, but there's an ability you have to print the covers in a different color if you want that type of look. And I've got a red robot arm that we'll look at later where I did that, and it's pretty interesting. It gives you a lot of new color options and customizability. Here's the classic Kwawu. We're looking to upgrade that. The beauty of the NIOP system is all these other hand designs like the K1 and the new Kwawu, as well as the old Kwawu, they're going to be similar. And so I can now just adjust them to work with the wrist pin or with the back of there's another connection at the back of the hand that I can bolt into now. And so we've got quite a few different options. Plus I can make QC versions of these now, and both the QC and the regular wrist pin are completely interchangeable. That's what we're trying to get to. So
Nate?
Oh, yes, John.
Nate?
Yeah.
You keep saying the K1, and I'm just wondering if you mean the K1 and you've been working with it, or whether you've looked at the kinetic.
Okay, I'm going to give it choice C, all of the above, because it doesn't really matter what hand design you give me. I'm going to be able to change it with the one wrist hole. So
I think the reason for the questions, we actually haven't heard a lot of good things about the K1 in terms of, you know, how it functions, and it's pretty, but we haven't heard anyone really speak highly of it in terms of a functional device. So I wanted to clarify if that's what you meant.
Okay, so just to be clear, I'm looking to take the cosmetic look of the hand scan from the Kwawu. I am getting ready to redesign it into Arks functionality.
Yeah.
So it will look like a Kwawu, but have the pulley on the inside, the leveraged whipple tree, silicone fingertips, that whole 9 yards, be easier to print, have stronger quality parts as a result, because I'm going to change the way the finger connections work. So the split happens on the outside of the fingers rather than the outside of the palm. I'll get into all that later, but we're going to go through, and I'm going to fundamentally look at the way all these different hand designs work. I would also like to get a multi-segmented palm, so the inside of the palm can bend in this way, not just the fingers bend down, but the whole hand close like this. I want the fingers all splayed like the Kwawu is, so there's good features all over. To answer John's question, I haven't reviewed either the Kinetic or the K1. I've been on vacation pretty much for the entire year, but when I do the review, that's where I'm going to do is pull all those different qualities together to make this new design, which will be the upper limb team hand. That was the old hand we were looking at back a year ago, actually. I'm just continuing forward with the design. The other aspect of that whole thing that will happen with that is we're going to make it so it'll be there'll be several mods you can use of that hand, where there's going to be one with a spring recoil. Then there'll be a passive version that just has the spring wired into the drive line, so it'll just always close spring loaded. Then we'll have a version that's also positionable, where each of the finger joints will just have different settings they can lock in at, like how the thumb is positionable in 3 settings now. And what that'll allow you to do is, I've had requests from Ahmad in Syria to be able to bend the pinky down like this and hold with the rest of the hand like this to hold a cell phone. And that's a very valuable thing for a lot of people. And so we're doing that. We're also looking at putting a battery cast into the silicone on the end of your index finger, so you can use it as a stylus. Because if you have anything with a charge in there, you can use it as a biofeedback stylus on the end, but we haven't developed that. Even the slightest amount of silicone over the battery will stop the ability for the cell phone to be able to register it, or touch screen, because it'll work on pads or whatever.
John,
anyways, I'm going to get back to this whole thing. Were
John,
there any other questions about odd hand designs I haven't addressed?
Did you have another question, John, or was that hand up from before? Oh, that's from before. Oh, here, I'll
okay, cool. So we have, we're working on development. I haven't uploaded them to Thingiverse yet, but the V2 versions of everything have the modified arms with the modified cam and the Arks hand. So it all kind of goes together. The modified cam version, I think, is great for the original Kwawu as well, because it increases the grip strength on it. It'll probably hopefully get that finger to connect and close now. I'm looking forward. Oh, the other thing that I should mention about the Arks Hand is it's got filament used as the connecting joints through all the fingers. So there's zero resistance. So it's less to close and less to open. And the opening is handled with the spring, which you can balance to the closing pull.
This this view here is very helpful. I know this is something we struggled with last time we looked at the documentation, and having all the different designs kind of side by side like that is very helpful to get an understanding of the whole system.
To this end, though, Jeremy, it kind of helps. All of this is interchangeable too, so you could still take an Arks Hand or put a Quahu hand on one of the Arks arms or whatever. That's probably the way to go. You'd always want to work with the newest quality device itself.
Of course, but it's still nice to show the basic options like that and their different combinations.
Exactly. Because yeah, people, and even so, I don't even know all the options because people are going to come up with things I haven't thought of. So, Jeremy, I know you're a big fan of two of these devices that we have pictured here. So part of the beauty of the NIOP system is its customability as far as your personalization for the different devices. So here's the demo arm we have made. A lot of these, in fact, here you can see customability in these two things. Here we have a Winter Soldier cover printed all in silver. Here we have a Winter Soldier cover printed with the bottom layer black, so it gets this vent effect on it. It looks very different, and it's all just in the printing method I used. It's just the filament used on the same STL. And then we have all these different ones. Like here, you like the Denver Broncos, we can throw those on there. Spider-Man, we got your guy. I know this is old PlayStation for all the true people, but like we've got lots of options, and I'll get into that later if we have time. Otherwise, we'll have to do another one of these maybe later. So we're starting to work on Bionics. Right now, the one tested and true Bionic design we have is the old Quahu Bionic that Sean Matheson made for us. I like the grip function that we get out of the joystick, where you can choose the different grips by just pushing the joystick the different directions. What I'm trying to do is get a toggle on that, use like a game stick where you pop the joystick down and have it pop into new banks of options. So one bank will be hand control. Next bank is wrist control, where left and right is rotation of the wrist or tilt with up and down. Next one would be elbow. That would be rotation of the elbow this way or up and down. And then shoulder might just be forward and backward, because we're trying to limit that one. The shoulder joint is an incredible joint. Nature did a really good job with that one. It's hard to fake. So we're working on that. But that's the way we're going to move forward and how we're trying to do the codes to move forward with. Okay, here now we have the different devices. I do not have the prayer arm in here yet, but that's an extension of the prayer hand and the exo glove. So the prayer hand and the exo glove are really neat devices, because what this does is gives you orthotic or prosthetic solutions for any combination of missing or paralyzed fingers. And you can mix and match between the two. So you could be an amputee who had a stroke and still be able to get something with prosthetic fingers where you're missing them and a full power assistance for the whole device. So we're still working on this. I've got Ahmad in Syria working with testing prototypes for me. That's the goal we're trying to reach here, though. And what this would do is basically, it's got Arks fingers on the end of the prayer hand. And so silicone fingertips and a silicone pad on it. So it's got increased grip. We don't have the option of the pulley in this, because you got your hand in there where we used to put the pulley. And we might put it externally on the top, but right now it's very minimalistic to try and keep it clean. John, do you have another question?
I do.
Okay.
I have never seen a prayer hand in reality or in the wild. Can you bring us up to date on that?
They don't exist in the wild yet. Ahmad is putting the prototype together. We've started on a prototype here. This is one. Okay, so like I said, you have all different types of combinations. This one's made for somebody with a natural thumb that still can.
And I'm gonna stop your screen share for a second and spotlight you so we can see.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead now. Now we got you.
Sorry about that. So here we've got the thumb hole and the basic design. What we're doing now is we're putting a spring. This is hard for me to hold. Hold on a second. We're going through and putting spring tension on the one side. I was trying really hard to make it voluntary open and voluntary closed, which I think it was just grabbing me right there. So it does work. It does grab stuff. We're missing the silicone fingertips on the end because the way Arks fingers work is you've got two screws in the end. One tightens the drive line, one tightens the recoil line. So you can adjust each one individually on each finger because they've all got different circuits. So you can adjust everything that way. I think ultimately, because of that adjustment and stuff, we will be able to get it to work voluntary open and voluntary close. The problem is it has a point right here in the middle where the fingers, it closes and locks itself up where you can't open it. It has there's a natural point where they fight against each other. So I've got to come up with an answer for how to counteract that. In the meantime, we're just going to go to spring recoil as a way to get the device out there until the development of the voluntary open and voluntary close is completed. And that's the reason with the delay on the whole thing. The other big delay is I've been waiting to be able to OpenSCAD the whole thing, and I have to learn OpenSCAD at this point. I just need to do it. I just need to learn OpenSCAD so I can do all my own devices that way. But
Okay.
the beauty of it is, if you can see how the fingers attach, the palm piece is obviously printed flat, and then you bend down these finger tabs that the fingers attach to. But the finger tabs can be added or removed through the OpenSCAD on demand through the menu. So like you'll be able to do all the customization right through OpenSCAD without having to know how to do any other CAD software. Just picking, and we're going to set it up with menus like each finger, you'll be able to set it to orthotic, prosthetic, or it's going to be orthotic, full prosthetic, 1-digit, 2-digit, or natural. And then it's just a pass-through hole.
Okay, thank you. That gives me a good sense of the state of play.
Just a side note here, it's interesting to note that you talk about doing OpenSCAD, which has a lot of power to it. A lot of people aren't, comfortable using it though as end users, and that's why the Thingiverse Customizer was so nice, because you could build these really nice, easy to use front ends built off of OpenSCAD. Unfortunately, MakerBot never really did anything to maintain it. It was down more often than not. For any who haven't heard, just yesterday it was announced that MakerBot and Ultimaker are merging, and so that probably means that they're going to kind of revitalize that platform and make some investments, which MakerBot never really did. I actually talked to some people about this at Ultimaker, so nobody knows yet, but there's a good chance that we might have some opportunities to leverage that, down the road, and it might be more reliable than it is currently.
Well, that would be cool.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Jeremy, I'm going to keep charging forward with the tools that we have
Oh,
at
yeah,
our
absolutely.
disposal right now. But like, I agree. I think that sounds like a great tool to look into. But I will just continue forward with the plan as it is at the moment until I see that thing actually in action.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was saying, because you're building an OpenSCAD, if that becomes available later, it would be easy to drop it in there because that's what it's based on. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that won't be wasted efforts either
No,
way. Then.
Absolutely not. No.
Perfect. All right. I figured not anyways. And regardless, one way or the other, you still have to get the parts all prepped, the STLs with the screw voids and all the rest of that prepped anyways. So,
right.
So I think we'll call it with that, with the presentation and everything. I will show you, I do have a demo arm right here, the one from the picture, and you can see when you bend this up, we get the hand closed and like nice. It'll hold itself there.
That's great.
And there you can see the more aggressive cam. It's just larger.
Very nice. Yep. Still working out the details on this, Nate, but as you're aware, we have that device catalog on the hub, which we've been kind of trying to find somebody to take over, and we're having discussions now with Ian Roy. I don't know if you know him, but he's been very active and is looking at possibly taking that on. And looking at maybe shifting us over to using the NIH 3D print exchange as sort of a primary basis for hosting e-NABLE designs. We actually already have a catalog set up there. It's just out of date. And I'm mentioning this only because when you share this, when you share your latest catalog, you might want to tag Ian Roy just to make him aware of it, because I'm encouraging him to try to pull together a plan to capture these designs that we don't have in our catalog yet and make sure that we bring them in. So you might want to just call his attention to it when you share it in the hub.
Is it spelled IANROY?
That's right.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
I got that.
He's with Brandeis
I'll be
University.
happy to do that. Oh, Jeremy, if
Yeah.
we do have 5 more minutes, could I show off the prayer arm? Because that's an extension of the prayer hand and it's the missing link in the whole thing.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen. I'll try and get through this really quick, because I know you got some other stuff still here. Nuts. I'm in the full screen mode again.
Yeah, it does that as soon as you share your screen. I think it flips.
Yeah, and I was all set up otherwise, but then it got me. Let's see here. I'm gonna move this. Okay, so there's a Salvation 3, the legendary Salvation 3 for the transhumeral guitar playing. This is the red robo arm. Now this is using an Arks hand. You can see the finger colors, or the finger covers are in a different color here. We did the Winter Soldier thing in red because he really liked the way the black one came out. And then, so what we have here is the prayer arm. And so this sucker fits on the back of a prayer hand, or it subs out in the place where the old Quawu thermoform used to be, or actually the Quawu thermoform is still there. This is for people with non-functional wrists. That's what we're doing here. And so it features the exo wrist, which goes around a non-functional wrist. So you can add a prosthetic hand on there. These connections right here at the wrist also fit the prayer hand. So this whole device is modular to put a prosthetic hand on there with the Arks hand or the Quawu. And then you can also just put a prayer hand on here, meaning you could also put an exo glove on there, meaning this whole arm can facilitate now any combination of digital transdigital or trans radial options and stroke conditions, all modularly. So, and there's a really good one down here. There's a couple good pictures. I love this one. He's looking at how it works on both hands. You can see his other hand. But he was super stoked about it. I love this one because all you can see is his smile. This is the first time his mom grabbed him by the hand with that arm. And so he was like wearing it. It's awesome. Anyways, I'm going to stop sharing and I will. Oh, John, are you asking a question again?
I am.
Okay.
Two questions. One is congratulations. It's interesting to see users. I wonder if you can comment on how many people have actually gotten real world experience with which of these devices. The second question is whether these designs all remain open source as you are working towards a business model as well.
Yes. Okay. So I understand how that concern would come up with, here, I'm going to stop sharing. I understand how that concern would totally come up with the new designs, and especially making a company. These are all always going to be open source. I'm never going to mess with that at all. I want the designs themselves to be free. If I make one for you, you might pay me to help print one for you or whatever, but everybody will always be able to use these. There are at least 3 of these being built in Africa right now. There are going to be 3 more built in Chile later. I've got to get the new contact down there, the files for the prayer arm, and we're working on developing. His 3 cases are the 3 spots we didn't have devices for. So we're making one for non-functional wrists, which we've already got. Now we're doing non-functional elbows, and right after that we've got a nub shoulder condition. So, but the Exo Elbow is already in production. We're putting the parts together and stuff and getting that together. The prayer arm already addresses the non-functional wrist. So the nub shoulder is the other issue, but I already had a design in concept for that. So we're working on it. It's just the hand design will be probably first, but probably working in parallel with the Exo Elbow, because I think Alfonso is going to be working on that while I'm doing the hand design. Kind of like how Ahmad does stuff while I'm working on the designs.
Cool.
There was also the foot stuff, but we're going to have to do that another day.
Yeah,
And,
we'll save that for a separate one. Hey,
yeah,
Nate,
yeah.
when you share this, when you share it in the hub, just a suggestion for that. Oh, what's the name of your guitar pick arm again? Salvation.
Salvation.
Yeah, when you share that one, I know you're a guitar player. Share a little video clip showing it in use.
Oh, you just wait, buddy. Yeah, okay, no problem. It's coming up. So I got, this is the other thing too, is cosmetically, we can do some really cool stuff with these arms.
Nice.
That one's fire. And then
yeah,
any superheroes that tend to come get pumped out. All the good stuff, right?
Nice.
So there you go.
Nice work as always. Very
Yeah.
nice,
Anyways, Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you, buddy. I'm sorry about that.
No, thank you. It's a great presentation. We can always have you back. I'd love to get a follow-up on that and have more time to dive deeper into some of those things. Maybe we'll look at feet next time. But thank you for sharing that. Anyone have any real quick questions? I'd ask that we try to keep it real short here, so we have time for a couple of other topics. But any quick questions?
I've got just a quick request, Nate. Do you think you can post some of developments that you've been working on? There's been several chapters like the Humano Sturdy in Colombia and Paraguay. They've been doing a lot of lower limb development. It'd be great to see what you're working on and connect the dots between you guys.
Okay, that'd be great. If you can help facilitate some of that, Ben, because like I said, I haven't been as aware of all these different happenings within the community. Just I've been distracted. So what I'll do is I'll flag you on the post, and then if you can kind of help facilitate and direct me, that would be awesome, because I have no problem doing that. My only other thing is it's hard for me to do those posts because like I've been busy solid, like no time for anything. So I will try to do that though, and hopefully things are letting up on my end.
It might be worth thinking about a lower limb working group at some point. If there was somebody that wanted to take the lead on that, we have a number of other kind of working groups. You know, we've got a Bionics group, we've got a, group working on a new hand design. There's these different groups that are establishing their own kind of cycle of regular meetings. It's all about having somebody that kind of wants to step up and lead and organize something like that, but just food for thought.
I had a lower limb team working. My team captain, Anthony Rourke, is still working with me. He's one of the people that's still working with me, and he's a physical therapist who's a lower limb specialist. So he would probably be useful for that too. And I'll do my job to facilitate him into that whole conversation. All right.
Sounds good.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe you could even just ask Anthony to make that post. The other quick question I had was, Nate, are you able to join at 1 p.m. today to Jack Buchanan's presentation?
I wish I was. Hopefully you guys record it, because I'll watch the recording later, but I actually have an appointment at that exact same time, so I can't.
Okay, no worries.
But I'm sad because I've been wanting to see this hand design for like about a month now.
All right, so I do want to try to get to just a couple of topics here before we wrap up. So thank you very much, Nate. Look forward to hearing more about that, and we'll get that into the hub for those that want to try it out. There's been a time zone issue with the hub that's been causing some confusion with appointments. Ben, what's the latest on that? Is it still an ongoing issue?
It does seem like it's something that I'm not exactly sure what's causing it. If it's something that has to do with just basically logging in. If somebody is not logged in, I think it goes back and defaults to basically Scandinavia. If they are logged in, it'll be connected to their account. But again, it's like a manual process. John's got his hand raised.
I'll just say before I turn it to John, I don't know if this helps, but whenever I post, like when we do these town hall meetings, you'll see that I always add a link at the time that links to this site called Timebee, which then uses your browser to detect where you are, and it'll automatically translate that into your local time. So even if the hub has the wrong time, if they click on that, they will always see what time it is in their time zone. Maybe that's a workaround until they have a fix for that, that we just kind of make sure to include a link to this that does that conversion.
Now that time, that link, does that change? Does the text actually change depending on?
The link is, so you see here, it's timeby.com/std/ so that's just standard to CDT. So that's the time zone that I want to translate from, and the time is 10. So that's 10 a.m. CDT, and it'll translate it into whatever their time zone is. So as long as
But they have to click on 10, which wouldn't be their 10, to see what 10 equates to for them, yes?
No. It's right here in the post. So today's e-NABLE town hall will begin at 10 a.m. All they have to do is click on that, and it'll show them their time.
They do have to click on it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they have to click on it. Yeah, because it's the site that does the conversion.
Got it.
I'm just saying, if the hub isn't converting time zones right, at least that's a workaround.
Yeah, and I've been thinking, I'm just linking the post that we made about the time zones and reminding people. So I think that's the I did that with the presentation today with Jack Buchanan, and hopefully people will just make the adjustments themselves.
Yeah. John?
I was just going to say, if we can't fix this, I think we should think about not using HumHub's calendar and just figuring out how to use a Google Calendar, which does make adjustments to local time zones.
Right. That's an option. Let's not make that jump yet, but if that would be a good fallback if we can't find a fix for this. Yeah, we'll keep looking into it. One other thing I have to bring up, and we don't need to have a solution to this today, but it came to my attention recently that we are actually exceeding the amount that we were allotted for our grant from Microsoft for Azure hosting. They have authorized the grant that we've gotten. We've had it renewed. We're in the second cycle of it now, is for $3,500 on an annual basis for Azure hosting services. When we first started using Azure, it was just to host e-NABLE Web Central, and we weren't having any issues. Since then, we've added in the hub, which is now hosted on there, and we're starting to spin up other services, like for the other sort of scaling application that we're working on. There's going to be other resource needs there. The bottom line is that we've started to exceed the grant, so that I am now getting billed out of pocket about $500 a month on our Azure hosting. We have, let me see, where's the portal here? So here's where we are in the year to date. You can see that we've already accumulated $2,100, shows up here year to date, with the projection of being coming up on $6,000. That's probably going to hit 6,000 or more, because we're going to have to add these additional resources for this application we're working on. So that means that, you know, we can expect that we're going to continue to renew this $3,500 grant, but we're going to have a balance of roughly, you know, $2,500 for at least for the foreseeable future on an annual basis that needs to be covered. So we are at a point now where I'm going to have to ask for some reimbursement out of the e-NABLE fund, because that's coming out of pocket now. And I hadn't realized. I would have told you in advance, but I just noticed that the last 3 months they had billed me. I wasn't aware of it before that. So like I said, we don't need to come up with a solution for this today, but maybe we can talk about that next time and figure out how to handle that going forward. It's just something I wanted to point out to everyone.
It's mostly VMs.
Yeah, there's actually a cost breakdown. So you can see down here, there's the Azure App Service, virtual machines, SQL database, and storage. Those are the big items contributing to the cost.
Are we doing ad hoc pricing, or are these pre-allocated?
It says pay as you go. I'm not really sure what that means.
So I don't know if this is true for Azure, but it's true for AWS. If you know that you're going to be using a set amount of computing resources for like a year, you can get a heavily discounted rate by basically paying for it all up front, or committing to pay for it all up front. So if we definitely know we're going to use like $500 worth of VMs, we can potentially save a fair amount of money by saying we want to buy this amount of capacity for the next year. That might be a good way to reduce our costs in the short term.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, honestly, the bigger discussion here is this is one other area that I'm going to need to find somebody to help take over, because I'm trying to unplug a little bit from some of these time consuming and cost consuming things. So eventually we're going to have to figure out somebody that wants to take over the Azure environment and the management of that and the budgeting and tracking. It's just, I don't have time to manage it. So right now it's unfortunately all tied in with me, my credit card. So whenever we hit an overage, it just gets billed to me. So it's something we'll have to figure out a solution for, but it can wait till next week. I just wanted to bring it up.
We have the mechanisms for that. We can fix it.
We do.
A quick question too. Do you think it would be worth pursuing reaching back out to Microsoft with sort of a extended proposal and saying,
it doesn't work that way. I already tried. They pretty much indicated that the program is what it is and there's no way to get more money.
Hey, Jeremy, is there a possibility that e-NABLE could get like a debit card or some sort of account as a front end for its thing? So like personal credit cards wouldn't have to be used for that.
I'm not worried about the mechanism, Nate. It's just a question of, getting that authorized and
well, it would be useful for other people probably too, because I'm sure a lot of people have the same issue if they set up parallel structures other places. That's just I just was thinking that might be a way if e-NABLE just had a card number that people could use for those type of purposes when they do that setup. You'd never have to worry about that coming back on the individual.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to talk to Evan about that. He manages our finances. We have a bank account, so it would be easy to get a card. We'd want to make sure it's one where you can easily kind of generate card numbers on demand and shut them down as needed. There's cards that these days, but
he'll have good options for that though. Evan's a smart guy. He'll definitely have options for that.
That'll definitely be something we'll want to address going forward.
All right. Sorry,
last thing I wanted to look at real quick, this is all we'll have time for today because I'm going to take us a couple minutes over here, is Rick Williams has been taking over the help desk administration and the badging process that Bob Rieger had been handling before. And when he comes across tickets in the system that he feels like need to be escalated, he's escalating those to me. And I'm looking at these and more I'm feeling like, well, I don't know that I'm really in a position to handle these either. So I thought it might be good to get into a process where we just kind of look at those tickets that he's escalated in these meetings and kind of take a joint approach to them. Some of these are just new tickets coming in that he hasn't looked at yet, so we can ignore those. But these that he assigned to me, there was somebody looking for someone to give a fab talk in Portugal. And I believe, is this the one, John, that you responded to me saying that it would be better to kind of try to engage some of the new leadership on this and see if one of them wants to, is this the one that we were talking about? I can't hear you, but I think you said yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is this an online thing? I'm trying to see. Yeah, 45-minute presentation, 15 minutes for questions, 2022 spring speaker.
So it looks like Tanya Lurch already submitted to that.
Oh, she did?
Based on emails from just before this meeting. Actually, no, 15 minutes ago during the meeting. So
I can just respond and say that one of our volunteers, Tanya Lurch, already submitted a proposal for this?
It looks like, yes. So that's, is this about Liz White-Wolf and the biannual Fab Educator Summit, July 29th?
No, this is the FCT Fab Lab at the Nova School of Science and Technology in Portugal. They're partnering with the e-NABLE 3D Printing Center for Health, which I don't even know what that is. Is that one of our chapters? e-NABLE 3D Printing Center of Health? Is this one of ours? I guess so. They've got our badges. So this must be one of our chapters.
Wow.
I'm just, this is one where I wasn't quite sure how to respond to him. So I guess this is a different event. And yeah, they're looking for I'm trying to figure out if this is in person for a presentation or online. I don't think it says here.
Jeremy, if you want to forward that to me.
Perfect.
That's
what I was looking for.
Yeah, forward it to me. I'll CC in the educators, and I think we can maybe share this regularly via email or via the hub space, the educators hub space. We can basically just have a little pool that folks can fish from in terms of doing some professional development.
And then these guys reached out, basically interested in sponsoring. It strikes me that these guys are like zipsprout.com. So they must be some kind of a marketing firm that's trying to get their clients sort of plugged in as sponsorships to get them more publicity. And so they came across our sponsor page on the e-NABLE site, and they're saying, hey, we're interested in sponsoring. They said, we see that you have a gold sponsorship level for $100. Is that something that we can take advantage of? And then, you know, as the emails go on, we're talking about, like, she's got questions. Is it possible to keep the logo and link up the website for at least 12 months? And would you be able to put their logo and link on it? You know, it's like, for $100, honestly, guys, I'm like, I don't have time to deal with this. Like, we already have more money than we, you know what to do with right now. So this is one, it's like, you know, if somebody wants to take the time to deal with this for $100 donation and get our website updated and get their logo on there and all that stuff, I'm happy to handle.
Why not just send them the link to Open Collective? There's a mechanism there.
Because what they want, John, is it's not about donating $100. They want to be on our sponsors page. They want to have their logo and a little blurb written up. You know, somebody's got to do those updates.
You know what?
Open Collective lets the donor create a profile, and then there's a list of donors on Open Collective. It's all
I know,
automated.
but John, this is what they're talking about. She linked directly to this page, our sponsors page on Enabling the Future, that lists out all these organizations and descriptions about them and links to their site. That's what she wants.
I've got an idea, Jeremy. If you want to follow up with them, let them know that page, those are thousands of dollars that those folks have contributed. We don't have any specific mentions for $100 donations, but John's got a really great point. So you can say, for that page, we have our platinum level sponsors, but if you make the donation on Open Collective and send an email to ben@enable.org, he can make a post thanking you publicly on our hub page, and you'll be listed on Open Collective for your massive contribution.
Okay, but what Jeremy is really asking is for one of us to reply to that person with, I think, the message that you've just articulated well.
Yeah, I mean, do you mind if I just forward this off to you, Ben? Are you able to handle it?
Okay, remind me next week, though.
Okay, well, I'm going to forward it now. You can't get to it.
Forward it to me also, and it will be on Ben and my nuisance list.
Yeah,
okay.
Put John in there too.
But
I know there are overtime.
Okay,
John?
go.
Yep.
Okay. I know there were already overtime. I have sent out a draft version of an article about Dean Rock and Ashish and the Rotary Club in Maine and the Graviel and the team in the Dominican Republic. It seems like everybody is sort of happy with the draft so far, which is great. There could be some opportunities for doing an event in the Dominican Republic with sponsors. I wanted to sort of pre-flag maybe next meeting if we could talk about potentially having the Enable Fund match to a certain level, some contributions. We can try to get some sponsorship. It seems like a really great opportunity to use these articles to actually leverage projects. Getting the team in Dominican Republic some support for their center, and then they're actually building this, and they've been delayed the last couple of years from the pandemic. But maybe we can have a vote on that next week.
Clarify that for me, Ben. Vote. You want to vote on what was it for the matching?
I know that we can have up to $1,000 for different efforts. I think if the Enable Fund could have sort of a matching sponsorship program of up to $1,000 for this event in the Dominican Republic, that could be a way to try to bring in some other contributors. And I have talked to Kyle, and he's going to reach out to Creality. But it could be interesting to have, and it'll be a focused event. So it won't just be, supporting their efforts. Kyle's pretty interested on zeroing this in on maybe just the bus project that they have for doing outreach, something like that. It would be.
Okay. All right, I've got it on the agenda for next time. We'll talk about it.
Perfect.
Anyone else? Okay, we got to go. I hope to see some of you in, I guess, about 50 minutes now for the follow-up presentation with Jack Buchanan. Take care,
And
everyone.
Jeremy,
Thanks, everybody.
for that meeting, if I join to do the introduction, do you mind moderating it?
Fine with me.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
See you guys.